title, but really what I get to do and what I look forward to, kind of like what Abel was saying, was taking the time from whatever else I'm doing in the office to come here and talk to you guys. Mainly because a lot of the times when you guys get speakers, we go through, they tell you all the different struggles, and I'm very good friends with Abel, and I really respect him as a co-worker, but as a friend, because of all the struggles that he's gone through. Now, you'll see with my story is very different. Obviously, with a lot of Latinos that come to the U.S., they have their parents that came here across the border. So the same thing with mine. In 1989, they crossed the border after being married for just a little over a week. My dad was 23, when my mom was 29, and they were looking for just a better life here in California. 1990, that's when I came around. I was actually born in Watsonville, California, which is the strawberry capital of the world, and then we moved to Salinas, which is the lettuce capital of the world. So very agricultural area. But from the very beginning, I saw that my parents and everyone else around me had kind of a vision for me. They knew what they wanted me to do. I did not grow up in a divided household. My parents are still married. They're been married for about 22 years now, and I have two younger siblings. So I never had any problems with that. We always had what we really needed. But really what set me apart from everyone else was I wanted to be the best at everything. The best at everything, whether it was in school, sports, whatever it was. I always wanted to take that initiative and take that active role in whatever I was doing. So for you guys, whatever you're doing, as simple as it is, take the initiative. Look to be that leader and say, you know what, no one else is stepping up. Fill that void. Okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to see that you're going to grow a lot from it. And I have those experiences where I've grown. The first one was when I was 12 years old. I was getting ready to go from elementary school to middle school. And I remember one day my dad came in and told me, he said, hey, there's there's a new school that my boss told me about. You might want to look into it, see if you want to go. It was a private school. I was like, well, it looks nice and whatnot. But they had really good academic programs. So I remember one day, they took us to the middle school, Hardin Middle School. And I remember them telling them all about these activities and sports and whatnot. And I was excited. I was like, man, to be able to do this and just go to people and have fun, that's going to be awesome. I'm going to love middle school. Went back, called my dad and said, hey, they showed us Hardin Middle School. Looks awesome. Right there on the spot, he told me, you have to decide whether you're going to go to Hardin Middle School or you're going to go to Palmer High School. Who does that to a 12-year-old? To be able to decide their own destiny at 12 years old to whether they wanted to go have fun and stay with their friends or take the other route and really push themselves academically. And he didn't give me any time, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to Palma, and I might not have any friends, and I know a couple of you said that, going to a new school, making new friends, and that was it. I was sent off. 7th, 8th grade, that went fine, but as soon as I got to 9th grade, and by the time I was 14, I noticed something very different. Even though I was at the school, and I was doing well, I noticed that I was very different from the rest of my classmates. Now, to give you a perspective, there were 100 students in my graduating class. Very small school, about 450 students. There were literally a handful of Latinos, 5. 3 African-American students, and the rest were Caucasian. And so I saw myself, and I said, he's wearing a shirt that does not look like the one that I'm wearing. He's not driving the same car that I'm driving. How can I get that? Why is this happening? I was very aware of my environment. So what ended up happening, I questioned it, but I couldn't go to anyone. I had no support system. I was the very first student in my family to go to high school, much less a private high school. Couldn't go to my parents and talk about this, so what did I do? I internalized all that. Okay? And I developed this myself versus the world mentality that I very sincerely hope that none of you are going through, because while it fuels your desire to do the best that you possibly can, for me, it diminished my social skills. Okay? Was not able to interact with very many people, became very shy. If you told me 14 to come do this, I was like, you're crazy. I don't have those skills to do it. But what did end up happening was that fueled my passion to learn more, to essentially take the opportunity that I had and just run with it. So by the time I became a junior, I had like a 4.74 GPA at the end of the school year. I was ready to take 8 classes, 5 advanced placement, 2 honors, 1 regular class. I was set for my senior year to do even more work because I understood that the main goal was to go to college. I was going to be the first one in my family to graduate high school and go to college. No community college. That wasn't a part of the plan. So I worked my tail off, graduated with 4.2, and became time to apply to colleges. Now, I only applied to about 5 colleges, got into 2, St. Mary's and Santa Clara University. Obviously, you know which school that I went to. But I was very worried that I only applied to private universities and I may not have been able to pay for them. Luckily, I got a full tuition scholarship to Santa Clara for 4 years, so I was set there. Getting ready to go an hour away to Santa Clara University. But that's really where the struggle started, and this is where I want you to take all these lessons, because especially you guys are going to be in those shoes next year. You're going to be going off, whether it's the same local ASU or U of A or NAU, whatever. Okay? You're going to go through those same struggles. I went to Santa Clara University. Again, same thing. When I was at Palma High School, everyone was very different, had a lot of money, and at this point I was like, well, I'm just going to try and fit in. Obviously, you know, that didn't work because what happened? I went through an identity crisis my freshman year. What made it even harder, and what was something that the staff don't know, is that my grandma died that year. My grandma died, and she was the motivation for me to do all that stuff. Okay? She died when she was about 72, and I still vividly remember going to Mexico, and the conditions that she was living, they were simple, they were not great, but she taught me humility, working hard, and then being happy with what you had. So it hurt me. That on top of everything else. And the venue that I looked for was leadership. Okay? I knew that I was a leader. I somehow needed to harness that power. And I'm telling you this because all of you are leaders. Some of you might not think that. You might say, well, I'm doing this and that. No, each one of you is a leader. You were all born leaders, and you can take everything that you've learned and put that into good use. So after that, I took various leadership roles at school. Became an RA, became an ambassador, founded my own club, was working 3 jobs on top of that, and was still able to take it to stay on top of my stuff. Now, I didn't have to do this because I had everything paid for. But I wanted to do it not only to prove it to myself that I can do it, to my family that I can do it, but because I wanted to be the best that I possibly could be. Just like Gabe was saying, Michael Jordan, doing as much as you needed to do to be successful. That's what I wanted. It amounted to different scholarships, different recognitions. I had an organization that flew me out to Washington, D.C., all expenses paid for a week for professionals. All that obviously amounted to, by the time I graduated around this time last year, I got accepted into Teach for America. And to give you a scope of how competitive that program is, it's more competitive than getting into Harvard as a freshman. And when I learned that, I was blown away. All that work had paid off. Obviously I was going to become a teacher, but all that work had paid off because not only I got recognized for my leadership, but I knew that I was a leader and I was able to make a difference. That's eventually what I did. Went off to Mississippi for a year, but by that time, April hit of this month, or this year, I knew that something was wrong. I was not using my leadership skills the way I wanted to impact the students that I wanted to. So what did I do? I decided to leave the Corps, which is a very scary feeling, because I had no job. And then a week later, after I decided to do that, I landed a job with the Beale Foundation. Because people believed in me, they knew what I had to offer, and I was aggressive in wanting to do something else. And if you don't, to really have that stick, Gary Campillo, our chairman, the first day in the office, he came over here, shook my hand, and said, "Welcome to Beale. Thank you for being aggressive and wanting to tackle this job. I don't have the experience for this job. I'm one of the youngest in the office, but I'm willing to work hard to make sure that